listening to We Watch Movies.
I'm Ava.
And I'm Jenna.
And we watch movies. So this week we watched Outside the Wire, which is a new Netflix movie that came out on January 15th. So last Friday, as of right now. It is an action movie, and kind of like a war movie, but it's not about a previous war. I believe it's set in the future, but also I could be wrong because I didn't understand half of what was going on half of the movie. But it's fine. It's all good.
I'm pretty sure it took place in 2036.
2036. Thank you, Jenna, for paying more attention than I did.
I didn't do much better than you, Ava.
Yeah, so it's starring Anthony Mackie and Damson Idris. For those of you who don't listen often, you know I always butcher the names, so forgive me. But yeah, it was an action movie. Wasn't much special going on. Jenna, do you have your thoughts?
Netflix called it Cyberpunk, and I found that amusing.
So for those of you who haven't watched it, if you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it, because we're gonna spoil it. If you haven't watched it, if you have watched it, then continue listening. If you haven't watched it and you don't feel like wasting your time, then continue listening. It got a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, which was the first thing that I noticed. Because when I was watching the beginning of it, I was like, okay, this seems pretty okay. And then I looked at it and it was like 37%, and I was like, hang on. I was just waiting the whole time for something really bad to happen, and then I just saw that it was just progressively getting worse. But the beginning was okay, and then the rest of it just kind of went downhill.
Like, it had a solid premise. Like, some of the execution was, like, a little wonky, but I was like, okay, like, you got your premise. Like, I don't think this will be anything, like, groundbreaking, but you have a movie here. I'm willing to keep watching this. And then, like, for the third act, this movie completely, like, bent over itself to completely change what it was doing. And sometimes this can be done really well and make for a really intriguing movie. It was not done well in this movie.
But did it have a solid premise, though? Did it really? Because...
Okay, like, solid premise for this movie. Like, okay, you got this soldier guy teaming up with this robot guy, and they gotta do something.
See, the whole robot thing is what bothered me the most, because there was no point. Like, I don't know, it just... He was like, oh, I'm a robot, and, you know, normally the problems that you get with a robot in a show are like, oh, they're too cold, and they don't understand humans, and then they have a mind of their own, and they start killing humans. And so at first I was like, okay, they're doing something different. This robot is a good guy. But then they just made him human, basically. Like, they were like, not only is he a robot, but he can also feel emotions even better than humans can. And he can perceive things like humans can. And he also can act on his own volition. Oh yeah, and he's also kind of squishy. So, I'm sorry, but, like, the way that they showed him being cut open, like, that's not metal. Like, they were like, oh, you feel like titanium. No, he doesn't. He's squishy.
You know what? I'm not going to say what I was going to say because it was innocent, but it does not sound correct, so I'm not going to say it. But while I was watching this movie, by the end of it, there were two things I wish that they had done instead of what they actually went with, and I would have preferred if they had just made both of them regular human people, not robots, because then you have kind of like two sides of the same coin and like who's right if either of them are right. That could have been interesting. Or you center it more on Anthony Mackie's character, and you kind of focus, like, why is the robot, like, less cold than the humans in this scenario? That type of thing. Really try anything other than what you did do here, because it didn't work.
Well, see, my problem with androids is they always end up telling, like, the same story. And just like generally most robot movies in general, they're always like, oh, this robot turns evil. Like, oh yeah, they tried to make a very human-like thing, but no, they turn evil. Like, you have that in... I can't even list off examples because there are too many, but most prominently, I guess, Terminator. Like, that last scene reminded me a lot of Terminator. When he was just kind of like going around getting ready to launch off a nuke, which I don't think that happened to Terminator, but I don't know, it just see usually you have two options to go in with robots that are self-aware. Either they're human, they look human and appear human and have very human limitations, or and they are like and they're limited in their social interaction capabilities, or they are not humanoid, like they'll be like a computer or like a program or something, and they'll have more feeling than they were intended to. And both ways they end up going evil, like in like every scenario. Like, I was thinking really hard. I was trying to find a movie about sentient robots where they don't turn evil, and at first I was like, oh, I think WALL-E is one of them. But then I realized, not even freaking WALL-E is a movie where none of the robots turn evil. And like, I mean, I just want, I don't know. But then, see, I don't know. I would have had a problem with it either way, because if he just stayed nice, as in the way that he was, then I would have been like, why'd you make him a robot in the first place? And I would have had a problem with that too. So either way, this character was destined for destruction, which was sad because I like Anthony Mackie. But yeah.
Yeah, and as I was watching this movie, I was thinking, why is it that every time there's a movie with, like, a robot plot, why do they always turn evil? Like, I can certainly imagine back when the advancement of technology in the digital era was still very new, and most people were still a little concerned about what this meant for the future, but now we're, like, 30 or so odd years later, and you would think that our relationship with technology and the future has kind of changed a little bit and diversified our interactions with things that are just become commonplace objects. Why hasn't the stories we tell in media changed? Because they definitely should. There's enough material that we can tell other stories, but these are always the things we go with, and it's not working.
You know what was one of the things that distracted me from this movie? I was rewatching that video of the dancing robots from New Year's. I want a movie about them. They look so cute. And I was like, what about a robot that's like really nice? There's probably like a kids movie where there's a robot that's just really nice and just stays really nice the whole time. But like, I don't know, I thought that it was interesting with the Gumps that they had in this movie. That was a cool direction to look at, because I honestly do believe that eventually that's where warfare is gonna go. But still, that just, I mean, that's interesting, but then that still makes that still makes Captain Leo, irrelevant, because if they have robots like Leo, why do they have robots like the Gumps?
I had so many problems with the Gumps, and this, first of all, like, I don't know that much about, like, robotics, or, like, the military, and especially, like, things that are going on in either of those worlds, so, like, if I say something phenomenally stupid, it's because I don't know anything. I'm just trying to talk about in terms of the movie. But the Gumps, like, so we have these, like, little cubicles for all the drone pilots, and they're all flying, like, the drones and whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So, then you have the Gumps, which I'm pretty sure no one is controlling them, because they were always saying, like, oh, don't preempt or whatever, and I was like, so if we can control the planes, why don't we control the robot soldiers manually, instead of sending more people out? And
this is when gamers take over the world.
The wrong thing.
This is when gamers take over warfare.
Do you remember last year how everyone was talking about World War III? And they were saying all the gamers were gonna have to go to war.
Yeah, I mean, like, just first-person shooter, the whole battlefield.
But, that does make sense, right? Like, as a loophole in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I realized that, I couldn't really look at the plot of this movie the same way, because I was like, why are we just creating conflict that can easily be solved?
You know something else that bothered me? The Russian woman that was British. See, this woman. Her name is Sophia, spelled Sofia, because she's not like other girls. No, and she's supposed to be this Russian woman. She lives in Russia. Or was it Russia or Ukraine? They were speaking Russian or Ukrainian. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I know that at one point they went into Russia, so I got my countries confused. I'm sorry. I failed out of the GOB in the 6th grade, so forgive me. Yeah, no, she was in the Ukraine, and she was running this orphanage, and everybody around her was speaking Ukrainian and had Ukrainian accent, and then this woman comes along and goes, "Oh, we need to save our land. We are the resistance."
Okay, so another thing about the whole, like, languages thing that you're kind of talking about,
Yeah.
I watch everything on Netflix with subtitles, that's just how I am, and sometimes you notice funny things when you watch things with subtitles, and one of them was sometimes, like, the characters would speak in a language, and it would say, like, in Ukrainian, or speaking in Ukrainian, but they would be speaking in English to someone, as if they were speaking in Ukrainian, and I'm like, no, you're not, you're speaking in English, I can hear you.
See, there are a lot of things that I've noticed with subtitles, and I think it comes from sometimes they probably submit, like, a script to the subtitling place to type out or whatever. I don't know how this works, but like, that happens a lot with TV shows that I watch. Like, the subtitles won't match what they're saying, just in terms of, like, actual words, or, like, something will be playing on the TV and it's completely different than what the subtitles are saying is playing on the TV. And I think that probably comes from, like, they'll have a script that's their script that they're going with, and they're gonna go shoot, and they submit or they, like, have the script and they're editing the show at the same time. They send the script to the subtitle place or whatever, and so the subtitle place makes the subtitles, and then, like, maybe the director was like, "Oh, I don't like that line, just, like, say this instead," or "I don't really want that in Ukrainian, say that in English instead," or something. I don't know. I have never made a movie or a TV show, and I've never needed to get subtitles for it. But I imagine that's how errors like that happen.
Yeah, no, it was just funny. And another thing, because, like, it'll say, like, insert adjective, music starts playing. But this movie used really interesting adjectives to describe the music it was playing. Like, I don't know if you saw them, but, like, at one point it was like, noble music plays, and I was like, I've never seen that before, movie. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if this one happened in this movie, but one of my favorites that comes up when they're really trying to describe a theme song for somebody who has subtitles on, they'll describe some songs as poignant music starts playing.
That happened in this movie.
That's my favorite one. Because, like, I get suspenseful, I get, like, action wait, how do they describe action ones?
Like, propulsive, sometimes.
Ooh. Oh, wow. You have to have a really good vocabulary if you can't hear the music. But, yeah, no, my favorite, I think, is poignant. It's like, it'll say poignant music starts playing, and then you just hear this one violin get in from the background.
Because, like, I feel every like time people reach for adjectives, but I'm like, you're not telling me anything about the thing you're playing.
Yeah, I think it would be really funny if they tried to describe, like, the musicality of all of it, like, in its own little subtitle part on the screen. It's like the regular text is going by, and then it says, "and the trombones crescendo" in the corner.
That might be. I've never, like, watched a movie with, like... Oh, well, never mind what I was gonna say. It's not totally correct. Never mind.
Uh-oh. I don't know. I just think it would be really fun to watch people have to describe, like, the entire song. I think that's how they should describe music from now on.
Music subtitles.
Oh my god.
The
Wait.
bars of sheet music on the screen.
I think somebody should make that a YouTube channel. It's like they take, like, clips from movies and stuff where they have the soundtrack in the background, and then they'll do subtitles, but they just describe the music, and they don't actually play the song, and they just, like, have you imagine the song. I don't know, maybe I'm too much of a nerd for this, but, like,
I'd watch it. Honestly, I need that sometimes, because I'll try to be listening to a score, and I'm like, my ears don't work like this, and I can never figure out, like, because I'm always looking for, like, the themes and the things composers are doing, and I'm like, nope, my ears are stupid, I can't hear any of it.
Anybody who wants to start music subtitles on YouTube, you have 2 viewers right now.
Oh, yes.
But okay, speaking of themes, I thought at the beginning that the theme was gonna be empathy, right? They were kind of pretty hard on the nose about that. They were like, look at this guy, he kills these 2 people, and he's very cold about it, he doesn't care about collateral damage, and then here's this robot who actually cares about killing people, but, like, ignoring the fact that he goes and just, like, kills random people all throughout the rest of the movie, but definitely judges, the main character. That aside, they sent him to Leo, right, to get firsthand experience of what it is like to be on the ground during these situations, and the fear and the danger and the adrenaline and everything, to give him a different perspective. And then, yeah, by the end he's like, oh, I want to save these people. But also that change in his character took place really early on. And then, like, the end was like, I don't know, it's like they were, I thought the whole theme was about empathy, and they were trying to get Harp to empathize, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that they had this robot that could empathize, which is like, oh, that's kind of different than what normal robots do. And then he was basically a human, and I was annoyed for the rest of the movie. But they made that change to Harp's character, Harp, the main character. They made it that development really early on, like the first time that he came in contact with, like, a bad guy and he was, like, bleeding to death or whatever. Harp was like, are we just gonna leave him here to die? And then Leo was like, yeah. And he was like, ah! And yeah, and so that change happened really early on. And then Leo, his obsession with empathy, I guess, made him kind of lose his mind, and then he was preaching, oh, the entirety of America is collateral, I'm gonna kill them all. What?
This movie, I feel like, was missing a lot of connective tissue, and it thought it was doing a good job of connecting dots, when really it was just a bunch of ellipses. Like that should have just been on my forehead the whole time I was watching this movie. Just ellipses, me trying to process what is happening and not. Because, I don't know, I feel like it kept trying to introduce things, and then it would carry on like it had fully developed that idea, and I was like, no, please, come back. Because they also showed a lot of, like, Harp, like, having, like, looking very conflicted, or kind of, like, reflecting on something that seemed to have happened to him in the past whenever he killed someone or was in, like, kind of a more violent situation. I was like, oh, there's gonna be, like, a backstory to this. There's gonna be a reason behind the way he makes decisions, because they, like, literally when they asked him, like, have you ever killed people before, like, he kind of, like, they kind of introduce it, like, that's going to be a thing we learn more about later, but then they never really, like, fully, like, do anything about that, and I was like, well, how am I supposed to know this character, movie? You're not telling me anything.
You know what would have been a more interesting story? You know that guy who... So, you know how at the beginning Harp kills those 2 guys, and their sergeant or whoever that they were working with is all mad about it. And then he meets up with him again one time, and he's like, you remember my voice? Yeah, you killed those 2 guys. You suck. I feel like it would have been a more interesting story rather than pairing him up with this random robot guy, to pair him up with that guy and see where that goes. So I feel like that's like a way bigger message of empathy, I think, than pairing him up with a robot who just kind of loses his mind and kills people. I don't know. I would have rather seen that. And then they could have stuck to one antagonist and stayed with Victor Koval and actually, like, tried to defeat him. I don't know.
Yeah, this movie took a lot of turns, and it was like, we're just gonna make them. We're just driving along now. This is a joyride, and you're in on it. And I was like, okay, let me grab my seatbelt. Not very fun. But if we're on the topic of movies we would have liked to see more, I don't know. I got really intrigued by the whole idea of, like, I don't remember the exact quote now, but Leo kind of described his job as, like, chasing ghosts or whatever. And also, I just really liked his office. That was probably one of my favorite set pieces. Like, whenever they, like, showed it, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. Can we stay here the whole movie? But I don't know. I might not have minded seeing, like, a movie of, like, him, like, chasing these goats. I'm doing finger quotes right now. I don't know. That kind of would have been cool, and we could have seen him kind of turn more jaded and empathetic to the point that he is in this movie, and it could have even ended with him deciding to go on this plan and, like, Harp showing up, and then the movie just ends and you're not sure what happens. I don't know, maybe that's a bad idea, but I wouldn't have minded seeing it.
Did you say chasing ghosts or chasing goats?
Ghosts.
Okay.
Two very different movies.
I wouldn't have the first time I heard ghosts, and the second time I heard goats, and I was like, you want to watch a movie of Leo chasing goats? I mean, I'm here for it, but, like, what?
Yeah, no, Leo gets a farm. He's just a farmer. He's a humble robo-farmer.
Okay, but early on, when they were showing off the Gumps, and they were showing off this guy who, like, killed these two people because he was like, oh, this is gonna kill more people. Let's just do the quote-unquote right thing and kill the 2 people and save the 38 people. When they showed him that, and they were all like, oh, you're so cold, and you have, like, no empathy for these lives that you took, I thought that the Gumps were kind of a representation of, like, that kind of soldier. Like, I thought they were supposed to be a symbol of people who can't empathize with the lives they take on the battlefield or something. I thought that was why they were there. I thought them and Harp at the beginning of the story were supposed to be, like, one and the same. And then I thought that was cool, and I thought that was a cool little addition. And then they had Leo, and it was like, why?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just didn't like the beginning because, first of all, they show you a bunch of, like, not title crawls, but they give you a lot of exposition on title cards. But then later on, it all gets explained by Leo again, and I was like, well, what was the point of me paying attention? And that beginning scene dragged on kind of too long for it to be a stinger opening for me. I don't know. I feel like they could have cut some stuff out, and it would have been more exciting to watch. I don't know, they didn't really get to their point fast enough.
Yeah, the beginning was very Hunger Games-esque, I thought. Like, you know, at the beginning I was half expecting to see from the Treaty of Treason instead of in the year 2036. It's the first year that they're using robots. I don't know, because I think there is a lot that they could have done with a concept similar to what they had. But also, like, it's just so many cliches happened in it, and I don't think anybody gave up an incredibly stellar performance. I mean, Anthony Mackie was good. but I don't think you could have done much with that character. It's like, you're a robot, but you're basically a human. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to represent that. And then there's, like, Harp, there was one time in particular, I don't remember when it was, but he was talking to Sophia after he got kidnapped, I think. But he was giving such a dry delivery of his lines. Like, he said something, he was like, what? No, you can't kill all of America? That can't be. What? And then his face went immediately, like, straight face, almost like he was almost smiling, and I was like, is that, like, I mean, I don't know, it just, I didn't see anything in this that was like, whoa, these guys are incredible actors, and I feel like in a movie with pretty heavy subjects, that could have happened, but it didn't.
Yeah, and for their credit, I don't think the script gave them a whole lot, because it got kind of ridiculous by the end when it was trying to make the most of its points. And then, like, the whole final, like, scene between the two main characters where they, like, really get into the themes of this movie and they're really talking it out before the nuke goes off. Oh god, that's a sentence I just said. But I don't know, like, all the things they were saying just turned, like, really cliche-like, as you said. And I was like, there are original ways to put these words, but you're not trying. And at that point, I was just, like, almost laughing. I was like, this is kind of stupid, everyone.
Yeah, and the whole nuke thing, I had a problem with that because I feel like every, like there's always that action movie that's like, oh, we're gonna have the big imminent threat be nukes and Russians, and I'm like, the Cold War's over, guys. Like, that ended a while ago, guys. Come on. I don't know. I just don't see, like, in a world in 2036, this fictional world that they've created where they have, like, these super high-tech robots and everything, I don't really think that I mean, it could, but I don't think that the main conflict is gonna be straight out of the Cold War. I don't know, it's just... I mean, it's hard to judge future stuff because nobody knows what's gonna happen in the future, but I don't know. It's just weird.
Be original with it. If you're making your own future, like, take an educated guess and do something. Like, honestly, like, if they, like, tried to make this this movie, like, in Silicon Valley, that kind of would have been something. Like, I don't know. If you're including robots and stuff in your movie, like, come on. You don't need Russia.
And honestly, you don't even need to set it in the future at this point. Well, I mean, a little bit in the future, but still, I mean, I get that Leo is probably a little too advanced for us, but also he was supposed to be a secret project, so honestly, if there were robots that advanced right now, I wouldn't be surprised, and they were just being kept secret by the government. Conspiracy theories. But I don't know, I honestly think that soon enough we're gonna get those, like, gumps in our military. I'm not, like, expecting that to take very long. Those, like, do we have those drones already that you fly from, like, from far?
Maybe, some form of it. Definitely nothing like they had in the movie.
Well, if we don't, those are coming soon, I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like at the rate that people have been advancing technologically with robots and everything, I am fairly certain that we're gonna be fairly automated when it comes to warfare eventually. But also that's just my opinion. I don't know how wars work.
Also, none of the cars they drove looked like they were from 2036 either. Because now we have a whole bunch of tech industries trying to get in on the automobile industry. But we didn't have any sort of evidence of that. You're trying to tell me all the phones would look like... come on, guys. Doubt it.
Yeah, I mean... See, 2036 is both really far into the future, but also not that far into the future. And so it all depends on, like, how fast our excuse me, I can't speak today. How fast our technologies are advancing and how much time and effort people are putting into those sorts of things. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because the area that they were showing, when they were at the orphanage and everything, it seemed pretty war-ravaged. Pretty, like, damaged. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have the latest in technology when it comes to cars. But, like, yeah, I mean, the military cars and everything, I feel like those would definitely be, like, snazzier. And then there was one part where he pulled out this, like, walkie-talkie thing, and it was huge. I mean, I get that it wasn't a cell phone and he was using, it was like a radio phone or something, but I feel like that is probably one of the easiest things for people in the future to make smaller and more portable, would be like military phones and stuff like that. I don't know.
I feel like this movie had an issue with commitment. It wanted the things it wanted, but when it came to all of the other things that those things brought in, they kind of just drew the line and said, this is what we're doing, without developing anything else. That probably would have helped this movie along, because I feel like there were a lot of missing threads that I would have appreciated having, and the world building was kind of basic, even though you kind of had free reign to do whatever you wanted here. And I feel like this movie could have been something more, maybe, if you overhauled it.
Yeah, and then they were trying to make it, like, a thing of ethics and stuff, because at the end they were like, oh, I wish I was never created, so I'm gonna go kill my creators, or whatever. That's what Leo was talking about. And it was like, is it really ethical to create robots like this? And I mean, I get that's a question that you need to think about, but also, like, at the beginning, when he killed those two guys, it all reminded me of that, like, there's a website somewhere where you can do this, like, quiz, where it's talking about how self-driving cars need to be able to make the choice of, like, you know, who to save and what's morally right. And so it'll be like you're controlling a car and you need to, you have no choice but to get into an accident. Either you drive off the road and hit an old lady, you continue forward and you hit a wall and you kill the passenger or something. Or either you drive in front of a train and you kill the passenger, or you run over 30 nuns. I don't know. But there's just like these, it's just like these questions it'll give you one after the other, and it's just like, which is more correct? Are you gonna go left and kill the baby, or go right and kill the grandma? And it's like an uncomfortable quiz to take, but it's also like, it poses this question of like, what, like, these self-driving cars and stuff, like all of this AI stuff, what is it supposed to know, like, do in those situations? Like, people have to program that. I don't know.
Yeah, to go off of what you said, this movie introduces a conversation haltingly, like how I introduce any conversation, but it tries to introduce a conversation in these questions that essentially boil down to an ever-growing and slightly absurd trolley problem that we do kind of have in real life. It opens with this trolley problem of kill two or risk all of them to save everyone, which obviously character makes their decision, kill two, let the others live, and other people would feel differently. They would say you have the chance to save all 40, and then someone else would say, but you could kill all 40. So you start with this trolley problem, and throughout the movie it tries to grow this idea, but it kind of makes the jump from 40 people on a mission to millions of people in a country very separate, from what's going on, but I feel like if they had tried to introduce this idea of, like, ethics and morals and trying to make the right decision, I feel like they could have shown how there's a gray area and you're never going to make the right decision, and how that plays into the idea of, like, robots and warfare and a lot of the things it was talking about. But instead they kind of diverted their focus somewhere else, forgot the whole idea of ethics and who do we have to kill, who do we have to save, should we even be doing that at all, and instead was like, oh, okay, so we need to kill this person for the plot to keep going, and we're not even gonna acknowledge that we're doing that. They just kept moving, and the more I watched this movie, the less impressed I was with just the overall handling of what they were doing, and I wish that they had taken the time to really flesh that out.
Yeah, I see, the trailer looked cool. The trailer made it look cool. And I was excited. I was like, oh, Anthony Mackie's this cyborg guy. But then he was an android, and that made it worse, because I like cyborgs more than androids. Jenna, do you prefer cyborgs or androids for storytelling purposes?
It really depends on what you're trying to do. I've seen stories use both effectively at the same time, and there are good examples of both. I mean, I don't know, it really depends on the story you're trying to tell.
Okay, but you can only keep one forever. There will never ever, 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 ever be a story about an android for the rest of eternity, or there will never, ever, 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 ever be another story about a cyborg for the rest of eternity, and you get to pick. Which one goes?
I mean, cyborgs are cool because you have kind of the whole idea of Frankenstein's monster, but the androids are cool because you have the whole idea of trying to make humanity from essentially nothing. I don't know, this is like, oh my gosh, ethics and morals and decisions. I won't make the right decision. I'm gonna go against you, and I think I'm gonna say androids.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I do agree with all of your points about them. They get messy.
Yeah, they get boring is what they get. I don't know, but there's a lot of also computer program stuff, but I've seen mostly computer program things handled in, like, video games. So I don't know if you've seen or heard of Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh boy.
But I think that whole self-aware, like, AI creature thing, I think that was handled honestly pretty well. And I think that, so like I said, that's an example, like I said earlier, that's an example of when you have a robot that's not humanoid, but has too much feeling for its own good. Cause, you know, Monica kind of takes over the whole thing. And I think that was handled pretty well. I don't know, do you know about that?
I know some. I was advised to not know things about Doki Doki Literature Club, so my knowledge is limited.
Well, I watched Game Theory play it.
Oh, 38.
No, but, you know, that, I think AI having too much feeling is, like, kind of what this one did. And I also feel like that's kind of what, that's also kind of what happened with Ultron in Age of Ultron, too. It was like, oh, they made these AIs and they have too much feeling, right? But, you know, from the beginning with those two, they weren't like, oh yeah, these guys are bad. Like, it's not a good thing that they have too much feeling as an AI, because then Ultron is immediately like, he's confusing, like, the pain that he's seeing around him with a death sentence for the universe, I guess. I don't know, it's been a while since I watched that movie. And then Monica is getting attached to this bit of social interaction that she's having, right? And then, in this one, Leo seems like a well-adjusted human, and then all of a sudden he goes off the rails. It's like, I don't know, it doesn't, it doesn't sit as well as the other ones sat, and even then, I didn't really like Ultron to begin with, either. So of those three, I think Monica is the best one from the storytelling point, but yeah, I don't know, it's really hard, I think, to make the robot story, or the AI story, new and good. And so, yeah.
Well, I think part of the reason is we generally only think about, like, AI robot stories in highly futuristic settings where they've been fully integrated into our society, or right at their inception when they're just first being introduced and there's the chance of something going wrong. But I feel like there's this whole other middle ground that, like, we're essentially living through right now that never gets used. And the reason why I said, like, I would prefer, like, Android stories is because if you think about it, and going off of what you said, when you're making, like, an Android almost, you're trying to decide how much humanity makes a person. Because as you said, too much can essentially, like, overload a person. Like, it's why you get so many, like, superhero stories too that have, like, empaths and they lash out when there are too many emotions around them. And you kind of get the same thing with AI. When they feel too much, they become kind of too human, and there's not much you can really do about that, because at that point they're going to act in inhumane ways because they have so much. And then if you don't put enough humanity and feelings into them, they'll act cold and they can't empathize with what they're trying to emulate. So I don't know, I feel like that messiness never really gets utilized well in stories, but I don't know, that's really fascinating to me, because it's the idea of, like, the things that make us human is not an exact science. It changes person to person, and we can't replicate it no matter how much research we do, and we're never going to make a human, like, machine. I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I don't know, it's interesting.
I mean, it's sort of similar with the whole playing God story archetype thing. And that sort of thing has been around since, like, forever. I mean, it just, anything where it's like man makes nature, it always, like, ends badly. And that's why I feel like, I mean, I get to a degree of people making real life AI, like, I get it, it makes sense and it's cool. But when you try to, like, give it too much, then it gets kind of like, okay, are you sure you want to do that? Because, like, I don't know, even like the Daedalus and Icarus story.
I was waiting.
Yeah. So we are okay. Words. So we are both in the same Latin class, and we just finished analyzing and translating Ovid's Daedalus and Icarus, and so that's a whole thing where it's like this guy, it literally says remakes nature, and it obviously doesn't end well for him. If you don't know the story of Daedalus and Icarus, you probably know.
They die. Well, one of them dies, and the other one experiences spiritual death.
Yeah, you probably know the phrase "flew too close to the sun." That's where it comes from. This kid flies too close to the sun, and then his wax wings die. I'm pretty sure that it was sabotage from the beginning, and Daedalus is actually the bad guy. But I don't know. Our teacher wouldn't really entertain my theories, so it's fine.
But that's fine. That's just a film theory.
They did a theory about it!
Oh my god.
They did a game theory about Daedalus and Icarus, and I brought it up to our teacher, and she was like, okay.
You did that?
Yeah!
When?
She didn't care!
When?
It was like a matter of weeks ago, I think, and I was like, oh my gosh, there was a theory that game theory put out about how Daedalus and Icarus is, like, impossible, and our teacher was like, okay. And I just wanted us to watch game theory in class, but no!
That's really unfortunate that you couldn't use that for the links activity.
Well, it came out after the links activity.
Yeah.
And also, if I used that for the links activity, the wax video would never have been identified.
Oh. Well, you could have sent it to someone else who didn't have a video and like, here, use this.
For those of you who don't know, there's a video on YouTube about the word wax. It's very informative. And it tells you all about what wax is. It's pretty great. Hey, Alexa. Are you gonna become self-aware and try to nuke me? She just went badoo and then turned off. Excuse me? What about... Okay. Hang on. Siri, are you gonna become self-aware and try to nuke me?
I'm having some trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Siri doesn't have empathy.
Siri has full bars. Siri, are you gonna become self-aware and try to nuke me?
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
No, that'll be all.
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, bye.
Nice talking with you.
Okay. Alexa, are you going to become self-aware and try to nuke me? She won't answer.
She's dodging the question.
Yes.
I don't have anything to ask. I'm not that high tech. Phone who doesn't hold a charge. Are you gonna become self-aware and try to nuke me? Nope, it's just sitting there. Suspicious.
Oh. Wow, it's averting your attention. It's like, oh, you can't know my secrets.
I'm currently staring my Chromebook right in the eye.
Okay, I want more good dystopian young adult movies. Even if they aren't that good, but like I want another Hunger Games. Because
I'm trying to think of good dystopians I've read lately.
like, okay, I know I never finished reading all of the Hunger Games books, and I like never read the Divergent books and stuff, but I loved the movies because I don't know, I guess I just like dystopian movies. And I thought this was gonna be one of them, but it was kind of lame, to be honest. And I feel like any dystopian movies coming out soon are gonna be like about a virus or something, or it's gonna be like a quarantine. I'm gonna be like, ew, no, I want like districts and death games and like weird selection stuff. I don't know. What else is in what else is in a typical dystopian YA movie?
Okay, so I got two things for you here, Ava.
Okay.
The first, so if you're talking about selection things, may I recommend the Selection by Kiera Cass, which is getting a Netflix TV show, I think. Those books are awful. Hated them so much. I read them recently. They're like 10 years old, and it's about this society that's America, but like not America. Perfect, you have dystopia right there, not America. But they have a monarchy. And the main character has like a boyfriend and stuff. She lives in like this weird society where no one knows what Halloween is. And the prince comes of age and he needs a bride. So what the monarchy does is this thing called the Selection, where they take like 35 girls from each county and they all go to the palace and they try to win over the prince. And this book is literally like dubbed like Hunger Games and meets The Bachelorette like without the blood sport.
But that's the best part.
No, it's so stupid, but like you know when that Netflix adaptation drops, I'm talking about it.
I'm binging it too. That sounds like definitely binge-worthy stuff. I just binged Bridgerton, which was fun. It's not dystopian, but like it was. I don't think anybody was questioning whether it was dystopian. But I don't know. I liked it. It was pretty good. I know it's trendy, but it's good. Okay, like let me live.
I think I watched the end of episode 4 in most of the next episode. Somewhere along that line. I've only seen the middle of the show.
I want to rewatch the video that I watched yesterday of the robots. It was called, so the robot place is Boston Dynamics or whatever, and I watched a video called Every Time Boston Dynamics thank you. Every time Boston Dynamics has abused a robot. And it was a very entertaining video. And then there was also one where some guy, like, gave the robots voices, and it was really funny, and it was, like, a better movie than this one. And so, yeah, I recommend, if you have made it this far, I know it's kind of off topic from the dystopian stuff we were just talking about, but if you've made it this far in the podcast, I recommend that instead of watching this movie, you just watch Every Time Boston Dynamics has abused a robot. And you see why making self-aware robots is a bad idea.
What if there was a dystopia where robots were trying to recreate, like, an actual, like, corporeal human, but, like, there was a robot hierarchy? But then a human comes along, and they're like, uh-oh, what are we gonna do now?
I don't think I fully understand what you're getting at, but I would watch it. Yeah, no, I would watch it. Oh no, you know who needs a spin-off movie?
Who?
Dummy. If you have seen the Iron Man movies, and you've seen the Iron Man movies, right?
I've seen the first one. I've definitely seen the second one, but it's been a while, and I unfortunately haven't seen the third, even though I hear it slaps.
Homework.
I'm gonna watch it, Ava.
Anyways, Dummy is the robot that Tony Stark has in his office. Not Jarvis, because Jarvis is an AI, but I love Jarvis. I really want to rename my Alexa Jarvis. Unfortunately, that cannot be done.
Can't.
But, anyways, the robot Dummy, he's very cute, and I want one. And I think I love him. And he needs a spin-off. And I feel like Disney Plus should make a one of the Marvel series just about Dummy. Just call it Dummy, and it could be like a series of shorts of just Dummy messing up things in the lab. I would watch that like 1,000 times over. I don't think you understand.
I don't, but I'm with you.
I mean, come on.
Mandalorian, and I haven't looked up who the little is it Gremlin?
Gizmo?
Yeah, I haven't looked up what Gizmo looks like yet. I'm pretty sure I know. In my mind, I'm just like thinking of all the scenes I could try and Photoshop him in.
Don't look up Gremlin, look up Gizmo Gremlins, because Gizmo's evil clones turn into gremlins, and gremlins are like evil green scaly monsters. Gizmo is completely different, and he's sweet, and I would die for him.
Is Gizmo like has like white and brown fur?
Yeah!
Okay, I do know who Gizmo is.
He's so cute. I'm sorry. I think Gizmo is 1,000 times cuter than Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda is a knockoff. And yeah, so fight me if you want. Gizmo is the OG tiny cute creature thing. And I love him. So that said, I think it's time that we wrap up this long conversation of random ramblings. Actually no, I think we stayed fairly on topic this time.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing with Gizmo is that Gizmo isn't a robot. There, we've tied it all back to robots. We can end now.
Anyways, if you made it this if you made it this long and are still listening, thank you. We really appreciate it. I'm serious, guys. We love every single one of you. If you listen to all hour-long episodes of these, of course, we love you. You're amazing. Make sure that if you enjoyed this, leave a like. You can comment about it. Subscribe if you haven't already to the YouTube channel, because we post videos that aren't podcasts as well. That usually comes out every Sunday-ish if we're not procrastinating really badly. And yeah, Jenna, anything to add?
Robo Farmer.